Shepherds rush home. Good evening and welcome to in fact, the last regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council for 2017. Tonight is December 19th, or today is, and it is 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and invite you to stand and join us for an invocation tonight led by Pastor Ron Lawler, Family Bible Church, and I will follow that with leading the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'd like to pray with me. Our Father in heaven, we want to start off tonight by thanking you very much for all the blessings we have here in this beautiful place that we live. You've been very, very good to us, and we thank you so much for that. We ask for special grace for those who have recently lost loved ones in accidents both here and down south, and pray that you'll grant grace to them and healing for those who were injured. Father, may your wisdom tonight be given to the City Council. May your blessings rest upon them as they make decisions to help our city to continue to function well. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lawler. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight's, I noticed we have a city councilman absent. Councilor Servadius is not here this evening. Councilor Munns?
I move that we excuse Councilman Servadius, please.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to excuse Councilman Servadius. Motion by Munns, second by Wassinger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Of course not. Good. We're moving on. Tonight's agenda looks like normal consent items and after a few presentations, and it looks like an ordinance and a resolution. Anybody got any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none.
Wait,
Oh, yes,
are you
Councilor.
addressing you said the consent agenda also?
Oh, I just mentioned that we have an agenda, which
We'll come-
includes a
we'll come
consent.
back
Yeah,
to the consent
yes,
agenda.
yes. Okay, so the regular agenda is approved. And item number 2, proclamations. I see none there, but I would like to invite my fellow councilman, Jim Campbell, and our Mayor Pro Tem, Danny Paggao, to join me at the podium, if you will, please. So I mentioned it is the last council meeting for our city council for 2017, but it is actually the last council meeting for a couple of gentlemen here with me this evening, and it's bittersweet to talk about this, but I want to tell you that these two gentlemen have been doing what they've done here for the city for much longer than I have. And we are actually saying goodbye to a couple of real pros, a couple of fine gentlemen, and they're certainly going to be missed. I'd like to start off by thanking Councilor Jim Campbell, who is completing his 3rd term of service to the city of Oak Harbor. After his extensive professional background as a career naval officer, followed by several years as a lead engineer and project manager for Lockheed, Councilmember Campbell provided unique insight and counsel to our city organization. During his service, Councilor Campbell served as the city representative on several occasions, including the Island County Tourism Board and the Northwest Clean Air Authority. Of particular interest to Councilor Campbell has been the process of how tourism dollars have been allocated between the various tourism groups in Oak Harbor, and how the scientific and technical mandates of the Northwest Clean Air Authority set standards for clean air in our community. Other areas of interest have been the planning of the new wastewater treatment plant, traffic issues, and tax affordability. We're going to miss Councilmember Campbell's humor, his professional insights, and contributions to our operations as well. He served on several other committees. We didn't list them all. We probably would have made the meeting another half hour longer. So I know he likes short meetings. He's constantly asking me to move the meeting along. Even earlier today, he said, this evening, he said, "You're not going to prolong this meeting, are you?" So I'm not anymore other than to thank you wholeheartedly, and I'm going to present you with something in just a moment, but thank you very much. You bet. And now, Mayor Pro Tem Danny Paggao, completing his 6th term, and that's 24 years, by the way. Our terms are 4 years long. 6th term of service to the city of Oak Harbor, in addition to having served as the mayor's, or the city's mayor pro tem for many of those years. With Mr. Paggao's military experience, followed by many years of civilian work at NAS Whidbey, Mayor Pro Tem has brought a strong sense of organization and community value to the planning and operational aspects of our city business. During his service with the city, Mayor Pro Tem has had a special interest in the areas of economic development and building a safe community. Mayor Pro Tem is pleased with the efforts of the current administration underway to strengthen the city's economic growth and diversification, as well as the hard work and successful results of the city's fire and police organizations. Mayor Pro Tem also feels the city's investment in the construction of the new wastewater treatment plant will benefit the community for years to come. Councilmember Paggao's calm insights and his focus on community values and his humble respect for those around him will be missed. And I can tell you that when I first got on council in 2008, I watched Mayor Pro Tem. I learned some things about trying to stay calm. I wish I could learn how he does it constantly, so professionally, and we're missing, as I've already said, a couple of fine gentlemen, and especially Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you so very much for so much good service. Thank you. So I'm giving each one an oak leaf with a recognition plaque, and they both read the same, so I'll read it one time and make both presentations at once. In recognition and sincere appreciation of your distinguished service, guidance, and devotion to the city of Oak Harbor, Mr. Jim Campbell and Mr. Danny Paggao, in Jim's case, January 1, 2006 to December 31, 2017. In Mayor Pro Tem's case, it is January 1, 1994 to December 31, 2017. To both of you, thank you for the friendship you offered, the advice you gave, and the leadership and support you provided to the staff and our community. Your time here will be well remembered by everyone. Councilor Campbell, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you again.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this honor, Mayor Bob Servants, and thank you everyone for all your support and help throughout the years, 24 years. Tonight is the beginning of the end of my career in public service. And after tonight, if I'm asked what I did in this century to make my life worthwhile, I can respond with a great deal of pride and satisfaction that I served in the Oak Harbor City Council. Pride and satisfaction of having the opportunity to work with our legislative body, with my colleagues in the City Council, past and present, making the hard decisions, difficult decisions throughout the years to make our lives better for the citizens of Oak Harbor. The decisions to make our Oak Harbor a better place to live, a better place to work, and a better place to play. Those pride and satisfaction, those were the words of President John F. Kennedy. Those words that inspired me to volunteer in civic organizations in Oak Harbor. And that led me to become one of the council members. And let me quote President John F. Kennedy when he said during the graduation ceremony at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, he said, "If I'm asked what I did in this century to make my life worthwhile, I can respond with a great deal of satisfaction and pride that I served in the United States Navy." And I did that too. I served in the United States Navy with pride and honor for 23 years serving our country. And I cannot do both those service in the city and the Navy without the support, encouragement, and love of my wife, Nita. And also with the love and support from my family. And some of my families are here. My daughter, Eileen. My daughter-in-law, Caitlin. My son, Kevin, cannot be here, and Eileen's husband cannot be here too, Josh. Yeah. And then most of all, we in the legislative body made those difficult decisions. We made the hard decisions. But actually, after we made the decision, the hard work and the dirty job were made by the city staff and their staff, their employees of the city of Oak Harbor. They're the one who doing the hard work and the dirty job, like public works, the cleaning up of street, picking up the trash, and the hard work starting with our city administrator, Dr. Douglas Merriman, and our city attorney, who make sure that everything that we do, everything that we pass are legal and within the law. And thank you very much for all this, your support, the staff, and all the employees of the city of Oak Harbor. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Bob Servant. Thank you. I forgot my granddaughter, Gemma.
Okay, that concludes our presentations for this evening. We'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, which is citizen comment period. At this time, citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. To ensure comments are properly recorded, please state your name clearly into the microphone, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes to ensure all citizens have sufficient time to speak. So, citizen comment period is open. Anyone wishing to comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. We have items A through K. And how would council like to, yes, Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull 4H, the labor agreement with the Police Association. Had some questions.
Okay. 4H has been pulled. Yes, Councilor Almberg.
And I would like to pull 4J for further clarification.
Okay. Items H and J have been pulled. Anyone else? Okay, we'll just consider those approved as presented. At this time, then, we'll go back to Councilor Munns. Item number 4H.
There's a lot of legal terms I wasn't quite sure of in this agreement, and I don't know if what all we can discuss or not discuss. Just on this, Dr. Merriman, we've had some discussion. Can you add some clarification for me, please?
You bet. And I think before I get started real quick, I left my glasses sitting on my table, so I'm going to grab them.
Sure.
So just a little background on this. First, tonight, we had some discussion at the staff level on whether or not we needed to do an executive session on this. But really, we're to the point where we've gone over thing with the bargaining unit. Staff has signed off on everything there. So there's nothing here that we need to talk about in confidence or under the rules that guide how we do executive sessions. So everything is open here to talk about. So feel free if there's any clarification or information you need to ask those questions. It probably won't be just me responding to some of those because we each worked on different parts of the contract. So I have an excellent team of people here as well. We have Nikki Esparza can handle some of the legal side. Emma is our guru on track changes and doing all the language parts in there. Patricia has played a role in costing and doing the numbers in that. So we'll do our best to answer those questions you have. One thing I did hand out tonight as we were going through the packet, of course, this always happens after you send the packet out, but we noticed we didn't have the most updated version of the chart. So what I've given you tonight is just that updated one that has some more of the information and things that we had included. There you go. So please feel free to ask any questions and we'll do our best to give you the information you need.
Mayor?
Yes, yes, go ahead. You bet.
One question that I had, and I know this is very fair and a lot of sides put a lot of hard work into it, but the 3% listed with the field training, I wasn't sure if that was 3% of just their specialty when they take on a rookie, or if it was 3% for their whole salary on how they would be compensated for that.
Okay, I can go ahead and run
Okay.
with that one. What an FTO is, it's a field training officer. And a person in that position typically will have a candidate or a new hire go through the police academy. That can be a 5 to 6 month process to do that. And then they have a period of time, they come and work with an FTO or field training officer. I think back to the days, and I'm going to date myself, when we used to watch One Adam 12 on TV. And you had a senior police officer working with a rookie, just to put it in layman terms there. So there's a period of time that that new officer works with someone who's more experienced. That experienced officer is the FTO. So they're getting some additional pay for taking on that additional duty. There's also some additional risk associated with that position. You have to be on your toes with a new officer, not just from the official, legislative side of being a police officer, but also when you get into risky situations. So that 3% was a number that didn't just come out of the air. What we do is, especially with police and fire departments, we look at our comparable cities and find where that average is, and we usually tend to hit right for the median or the average point for those. That's where that number comes from. The period of time that an FTO is paid is only during the window of time that they are actually assigned duty as an FTO to a junior police officer. Once that training period is complete, then that FTO pay and that position ends at that point. So it's just for that period of time. You may even have 2 or 3 different officers rotate through one new trainee's probation, no, I shouldn't say probation, but their training period like that. So you may have one FTO get pay for a week. The next one will start, they get it for the next 2 weeks. But it is only for that window of time that they're actually given that assignment.
So any specialist that's taking on the extra will be compensated for that time period that they're putting in the extra time and the extra risk thing?
That's correct.
Okay. And the phrase prevailing rights, you were explaining to me, in my mind, when I read it, I had one idea, and then when I read it again, I came up with a different scenario. But I believe you said that it had to do with management on that. It's on the first page down towards the bottom of the document, I believe.
Yeah, I think it should be 1.3
Three.
in your agreement.
Done. If
Okay,
you would-
I thought there was more
No,
coming.
no.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
now,
Do you want me to take
do you
this
want to
one?
take it?
Yep.
That might be a
So-
good one to.
I'm just going to not go legalese. I will just sort of explain it in a really simple term. So really the big three in labor negotiations are wages, hours, and working conditions, right? And all this is really saying is that we acknowledge that those are the big three that we are required to bargain. Those are the predominant rights that we are acknowledging. That's really all the clause is saying.
Okay, that's it, that's all I have. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And so we'll go to item J, 4J, and Councilor Olmert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure our city engineer is going to want to step up to this one. Just what I'm sure you wanted to do tonight, Joe. The questions that I have on this is, and I'm familiar with where, at least I think I'm familiar with the platform area that you're looking at or doing this engineering for, reinforcing that platform on Pioneer Way, or for the obelisk out there. What caught my eye on this is in the third paragraph of the background and summary, and it's the last two sentences that says, funding from the construction phase of the scope has been moved to the design phase of the scope. At a later time, the construction administration scope and funding shall be negotiated and executed. Could you explain that in more detail and why we're doing it this way?
Mayor, council members, certainly I can answer that for you. When we originally negotiated the work with BHC Consultants, we had both, we included both the design element and engineering services during construction, so that we fully expect in a situation like this where we know very little about those vaults, that we're going to come up with some unknowns when we start getting into the project. So we set aside some funds for that. Well, through the process, we've asked the consultant to consider a couple different things that weren't in the original scope of work. Two different decorative railings as opposed to the steel railing that's there now. We also asked them to look at how that's going to match into the sidewalk that's next to it, which wasn't part of the original scope. So that what we're trying to do is acknowledge the fact that we've asked them to do more design work, and that's taking away from the funding that we have during construction.
Okay, I'm still not, I understand what you're saying, but let me just walk through the numbers for just a second. The first contract was for $16,919, and that's for the investigation and a report and a structural analysis not to exceed $16,919. That was the original. Then we had an amendment to extend that. That was just a time extension. And the next one now is the $39,854, and that's for additional design work on top of what we're doing that has nothing to do with construction, what you're saying.
No, the first one was exploratory. When we originally were approached about how to attach the monument to the top of those lids,
Okay.
we asked, because we needed to ask for some help from an outside consultant, structural engineer, to tell us if those lids could handle that load. And that's what that initial effort was. There was very little known about those. We had to do some coring of the lids on those to find the thickness. They came out and actually, we had to pump them. They're sewer tanks. We
Right.
pumped them dry and actually went inside and tried to see how they were constructed so we could make some estimates on if it could even hold the monument. Once we figured out that one lid's only 3.5 inches thick and we don't know how much rebar, and the other might be 4 inches, we weren't very confident that it could hold the monument, much less a full loading of people, which is why you see a sign out there that says maximum of 20 people. That's what our structural told us.
Okay.
So we decided we needed to do something about it and moved forward with the design contract. This $39,000 includes design and services during construction, or services during construction.
That's not what the last sentence says. It says, at a later time, construction administration scope and funding shall be negotiated.
I understand where you're going and what you're asking. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. So the contract that we signed with them on March 21st for $39,000 had two primary tasks. One was to provide us the design for the new lids, and the other was to answer any questions that come up during construction. What happened is, as we were moving through design, we asked them to do additional work, so that ate into the budget that we had set aside for construction services. So that last sentence of that third paragraph is indicating that when we get to construction, I might very well be back in front of you asking you for additional funding to cover those services.
Okay, well, that's the way I read this, is you'll be coming back not only for those services, but also for the cost of construction to do that.
Yeah, we'll be doing that at the same time, because we'll likely, the ideal thing to do would be to complete the design, get the property issues wrapped up, put it out to bid, and when we come back to you with a request to award the bid, we'd be asking for whatever the difference is in the fees to have BHC available to answer any questions.
Okay, with this amendment, we're already up to almost $57,000. You have any idea where we're going with it in the end of this thing? Are we spending $100,000? We're going to spend $100,000 to mount an obelisk out there someplace on the... That's what I'm concerned about, where it's going. It seems kind of an open-ended situation.
I wouldn't consider it open-ended. I would say that the monument brought something to our attention that we weren't aware of before, and we're out there addressing an issue that would be there whether or not the monument was there. It just brought it to our attention. And you are right, it's probably going to be the $100,000+ fix.
So, I'm not going to drag this out much longer, Mayor. I'm a little bit puzzled about this. Does it make sense to have a $100,000 base for a monument when there might be an alternative to this? That's where I'm going with this. Does the vault have to be repaired or modified without the obelisk on it? Is it stable the way it is?
I think it's prudent of the city and a risk management for the city to do something with those lids. 3.5 inches of concrete is not enough.
I don't mean without the obelisk on it, without that load. Is the vault stable? It's functional, it's usable, it's functioning as designed?
As long as we follow the advice of our structural engineer and don't exceed the loading that we've posted it at.
Okay, I understand that. What if we moved it on a separate pad 50 feet to the left and didn't spend $100,000 messing with the vault?
Regardless of whether or not we put the monument on there or not, there's an issue with the lids on those tanks.
Well, that's what I ask. When you say an issue.
I mean that we're unsure of the construction methods that were used, and all we know is that it's about 3.5 inches thick. We don't know how much rebar. And from your work in construction, you probably know that 3.5 inches of concrete is not sufficient in today's world for design of a structure like that.
Okay, so I'm going to let it go after this question. If we didn't put the obelisk on that right now, we would still reinforce that lid to some capacity?
Yes, we would actually do it to the same capacity that we're doing.
All right. I'm just, every $100,000 adds up. And I'm gonna go along with this, but I'm not real satisfied with the full information, because it just seems like a lot of money to do an exploration and then to do the design, and then have to stack on top of that administration on top of construction, plus the construction cost, plus the city's time. So it's a $100,000 base that I see coming up to hold that obelisk.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
yes. Couple things. I don't live very far away from that area, and I can tell you that there, probably in the future, there will be more and more times that there will be in excess of 20 people on that. I mean, it's getting to be a gathering place. We've actually had an event there not all that long ago. And so I think, for safety purposes, it does make good sense in the long run. But it seems expensive now, but it'll get used more and more, I believe. So we have we've split the consent agenda. I would like to go back and ask for a motion to approve items A through K at this time. Yes, Councilor Munns?
I move we accept items 4A through K.
Second.
As presented.
Okay, got a motion to approve consent agenda items A through K. A motion and a second. Motion by Munns, second by Wassinger. Any question?
Question.
Yes, question?
Didn't we approve everything but H and J the first time through?
Well, we didn't have a motion.
We don't normally have a motion
Yeah.
for consent agendas. If nobody complains, we're okay.
That's right, I agree. But we can have a motion.
Okay.
So,
Yes, Councilor Heisen.
sorry, Councilmember Campbell's correct, with the exception of H and J, it's already been approved.
Okay.
Via unanimous consent. So, I mean, I suppose we could do it twice, or, though it would be done by now if we hadn't brought it up, but we could do it twice or just move to approve consent agenda items H and J. Because as of now, those are the only ones that haven't been approved.
Okay, but we do have a motion on the floor now to
Right.
actually approve them. Motion and a second. So, any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move on to item number 5. And I do have several comments tonight, but I'll try to make them brief. We have new artwork, and I'm going to read from the Oak Harbor High School art instructor Kit Christopherson to Mayor Severance and City Council. It is my pleasure to showcase these exemplary student works, the breadth and intelligence and creativity exhibited in our Oak Harbor High School students give me a hope that in the future and fuels a motivation to provide students creative and reflective opportunities. May these finely wrought and carefully considered artworks, by example, give you a little of that same hope and synergy in your leadership during this joyous season. On behalf of the students, thank you, Kit Christopherson. So thank you, Kit. Thank you, Oak Harbor High School. And we've got some new art on display. City offices will be closed on Monday, December 25th, in observance of the Christmas holiday. Garbage and recycling usually collected on Monday will be collected on Tuesday, the 26th. No change is in Tuesday's garbage services. And of course, this is posted on our website. Reminder, and I said it at our earlier meeting this month, that December is National Impaired Driving Prevention Month. A good time to, it's always a good time to think about impaired driving. Oak Harbor Fire Department, it's fire and police actually, Oak Harbor Fire Department and the police department are conducting multiple school safety training scenarios at the high school. In the A wing, actually, they did some today. And they'll be doing those tomorrow, December 20th, and Thursday, December 30th or 21st. Both of those days from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. Oak Harbor School District will not be in session during this training, but ROTC students will be volunteering as role players. You may notice emergency responders from the Oak Harbor Fire Department, the Police Department, the Island County Sheriff's Office, Whidbey Health Emergency Services, and the Island County Department of Emergency Management at the location. Realistic training sessions provide invaluable experience for the emergency responders who serve this area. There will be no doctors or no doctors, I hope not. There will be no detours or street closures due to this event. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact Fire Captain Craig Anderson. He can be reached at 360-279-4700. Captain Craig Anderson. So finally, and last but not least, a big congratulations to NAS Whidbey on winning the Installation Excellence Ward Award again. For the second time in 3 years, Commander Naval Installations Command selected NAS Whidbey Island as the Navy's top large installation this year and the overall recipient of the Navy's Installation Excellence Award. NAS Whidbey Island Commanding Officer Jeff Moore said the award was a welcome surprise. This was truly unexpected, and we are extremely appreciative of the recognition, he said. Each year we simply try to be better than the last, and with great support from both our tenants and our region staff, we were able to sustain excellence. Equally, this is an extremely important recognition for our community who do a tremendous job supporting our sailors and families. This goes on a little bit, but I just wanted to say that the paper called me today about this, asked about our partnership with NAS Whidbey, and I think they finally had to cut me off because I was telling them how much and how often that we partner with NAS Whidbey. You know, whether it's on the Little League fields, whether it's cleaning up, whether they're helping us with an event that we have going on, whether it's in a parade, whether we're helping them on their parts of their base with some of our policing and fire. We just have a great partnership, and they're a great neighbor. And congratulations, NAS Whidbey Island. It's certainly nice to have you as a neighbor. And with that, I think I am ready to move on to council. So at this time, does council have any comments? Anybody? Yes, Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to congratulate Chief Dresker for the award ceremony that he hosted. It was a class act, and they honored 10 officers for an incident in the city, and they had officers and I think EMS people come from Skagit to also participate in it, and it was really very well done, and we should all be proud of the whole department. But it was a class act that day, and it was nice to see. They all do wonderful work, but a select few to receive. But it was fire and police, so it was really a wonderful ceremony that was held at the Yacht Club. Also, if it's the time of giving, and Help House has spent $8,000 just buying turkeys for Christmas baskets. So, give an extra $3, $5, $10, whatever, or some canned goods, they will still take it. They have the baskets pretty well planned, but come January and February, it's the colder months and first of the year, and people have already given, and so they don't necessarily think about it in January and February. So any contribution would be welcomed, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Allenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. When do you anticipate scheduling the council to assign different committees? We're going to have a change for Mayor Pro Tem coming up. We'll have reassignments of different committees. Do you have a schedule on that?
Actually, I know the first meeting in January, we'll discuss the mayor pro tem, I believe.
That's
But
correct. We have the swearing in, and then we have the mayor pro tem discussion for January 2nd. And then shortly after that, we'll be putting together the list of assignments and those things that'll be done during the month of January.
Okay? Thank you.
You bet. Yes. Councilor Munns?
I forgot to ask, is it possible that sometime in January, we could have a special discussion period about where our rate study is going? I know we're getting closer to the final number, but at least be informed on what's being considered and where council is. I know it's not the dead all drop date, but I would just like to be part of that, to know what we've looked at, what we're still looking at, are we on track, are we not? And the other thing is where are we so far on money for the park? It's kind of up and down. It seems like lately it's the mood is very down, and I just realistically, I want to be part of the team and like to help. Maybe we have some good ideas, I don't know, but sometime in January, possibly those two items for funding. They could be together, but not with some of the other important business that we do. I just think we need a frank discussion and to hear things out in the open, please, if it's possible. Thank you.
Do you want to respond to that, Dr. Merriman?
You bet. And it's, thank you, Mrs. Munns. It's part of a bigger question as well that we can talk about sometimes, as far as updating council more often than a date you have to take action on something. We realize a lot of times we dump a lot, we do the data dump, and I think having these types of things where we give you a more recurring update would be helpful, I think, for everybody. As far as the rate study and Windjammer funding, these would be great ones for us to have a further discussion on. The rate study has actually been in process, just to give you a quick update, for quite some time. Typically a rate study, it's not surprising to have iterations or versions go back and forth half dozen to a dozen times, because it is more than just the treatment plant, it's also the system as a whole. So it'll be the lagoons and all the other, like the capital improvement plan, those types of things. So we will put that together. Right now, we have our latest version sent to HDR, Sean Korn, who's doing that. So hopefully we're getting close to the final version of that we can firm up. We're still working under our last rate ordinance, I believe goes through 2018 to December 20th. So we're not in a lag period right now where there's nothing in place. But we'll be able to know where we stand and what recommendations we would make going forward from there. Windjammer is one where we very much are going to need council's assistance, because we still have some selling to do to the community a little bit. We're getting our 90 and 100% drawings in. And what happens sometimes on these types of projects is we do a community effort. They give us the dream vision. We've done this with the Pier project, with the Roger Brooks plan. So we get those, and then we have to go through, and figure out, what is the price tag? Sometimes that can be awkward because you can usually find out the price tag can exceed expectations somewhat. So as far as we're firming up the numbers for Windjammer, we don't have all the funding yet, but we have a good portion of it. But we'll have to think of some creative steps through grant writing and even going to the community, and we would really like council's input on that as well. So I think those are both good topics to have possibly during January, and we can do that and see how much information we have and see the best way to schedule that. If January's workshop is somewhat of a light one, I'll have to look at that and see. Maybe we can do it then. Or if it's one where there's enough information, maybe we have to have a special meeting time just to talk about those two topics.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, other council comments? Yes, Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to go to the police recognition ceremony. I was at work, but I have heard very good things, so thank you from afar. I want to thank the Coupeville Historic Waterfront Association. Every year around this time they come to, speaking of work, I work at Island County Human Services, so every year at this time, they come and get our wish list. We have a wish list for all of the people that come in who need assistance, whether it's, housing, whether it's a warm jacket, or it's, diapers, or whatever it is that people need. If we have it on hand, then we're happy to give that out. And so, supplies get whittled down through the year, and we keep a wish list. And every year, the Coupeville Historic Waterfront Association takes that list and gets us everything that we asked for. And we have an entire conference room loaded down with everything we asked for. And it's like Christmas, for us and everybody that comes in needing help. So I just love the way this community supports each other. I mean, there's examples like that everywhere, and that's just one of them that I encountered today. So I wanted to throw my thanks out there.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Council comments? Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to the city administrator comments.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My comments for tonight, one, I'll go through our calendar for January really quick. We have a lot of changes and different things going on, a lot of meetings, so I want to make sure that we have them all calendared correctly. First, before we get to January, we do not have a workshop this month. So in honor of the holidays, and we actually got most of our work done for the end of the year, we won't have to have that, so there's no workshop scheduled for tomorrow. Once we get into January, though, January 2nd is our first city council meeting. And as we mentioned, we'll be swearing in our new council members. We'll have the mayor pro tem discussions and then move to our regular city business that evening. This will be followed on January 16th by our second regular council meeting during the month. These will both at 6 o'clock. Then we kind of get into a little bit different schedule for the month. Now, we do have city action days, and this is the Association of Washington Cities Conference held down in Olympia. And this is when we have that opportunity to work with AWC and our legislators to push forward different items of city business with the legislative session this year. So those dates, tentatively right now, we will be traveling down there on January 23rd. That is a Tuesday, I believe. And we'll be having our legislative dinner at the Bud Bay Cafe that evening. The times I don't have exactly with me, and I'm getting a 7 o'clock finger hold up from Nicole. So that will be 7 o'clock down there. Please let us know if you need any help on your travel arrangements. I believe you all have your packets, and we have everything to go. A couple of things that we're doing. The 23rd is the legislative dinner. The 24th will be the conference where we have the different sessions with the AWC. The 25th, Friday, the mayor and I will be meeting additionally with our legislative reps there, and there are more training sessions and things with AWC. One item I did want to mention to you, if you have the opportunity to hang out in Olympia a little bit longer, there is a parliamentarian process class and workshop being offered by Ann McFarland. If you remember, she's the dinosaur lady who came in and worked with us a few years ago. Some of you remember that. But she's excellent at walking us through that, and when you have a T-Rex motion, eat a smaller dinosaur motion, it actually makes it all make sense. So that is an excellent class. If you have that opportunity to attend that and would like to do that, please give Nicole a call, and we can confirm up who would like to be at that class. And finally, because of City Action Days being that week, that's normally when we have our workshop, we have pushed our workshop to, I believe, January 31st. That is Wednesday, January 31st. And I believe that gets us caught up with our calendar. Ms. Munns did bring up a good point about updates. We will be looking at some different tools to give City Council updates on projects that are in process. And I'll be working with staff on how to do that. It may be in the form of a memo or a letter that comes out to you, or some ways, because we do listen to those things that we hear you looking for, and hopefully that will give you more information and keep you updated as we go along. So that'll be one of our goals. And speaking of updating, we have Brett here tonight for our wastewater treatment plant update.
Good evening. It's time for our Clean Water Facility Project update. It is the Christmas season, and we're getting lots of new toys. Matter of fact, Brian Shirley was kind of at our construction meeting this morning, had bright eyes, and we walked downstairs. We got all kinds of stuff laying around. It's kind of fun just to go try to figure out what everything is. So I know where most of it is right now, but there's boxes down there. I'm kind of going, oh, take the ribbon off. But anyway, this is actually a centrifuge. This is the device that we use for our biosols. Before we put it through the dryer, we have to dewater it. So that's what it is. We actually have 2 of those, and they're $750,000 for 2 of them. So they are a very specialized device, and we were pretty excited to see them there. They're actually elevated, so they're actually 20 feet off the floor. I do want to say Merry Christmas from the project team. We had a potluck on Friday, and we realized that this is our 3rd Christmas together down at Woodby Bank Building. It's been a very effective team. I don't think people realize that having the engineers, the construction managers, the owner, and the contractor in one room is a very big advantage to the city. We get a lot of things done. It's been our tradition to have for the last 2 years, have our crane lit up, and it's been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I do have some bad news, is the crane is scheduled to be demobilized in the first week of February, so it's been a fixture for us for a while, and unfortunately it's going to go away, and we're all going to miss it. Recent activities, we are, as said earlier, our Windjammer design documents are due on December 22nd, Friday. We're starting to prepare packages for putting these out for bid, and we're having a variety of bid packages so we can select what we want to do. It's going to be a busy time. We'll probably bring in a GMP in probably the end of February, early March. We are in the process of obtaining development permits for the park project. We have several large bundles into planning right now. We continue to work on our SCADA software development. This is starting to get very intense. There's a lot of things involved with that, and a lot of hardware, being assembled at various places across the country. So we're sending people out to inspect that. Construction-wise, we're plowing right along. We're over 11,000 yards right now, and our concrete work will be closing out about the middle of January. Right now, the work does remain ahead of schedule and below our labor estimates. It's been a little slower these last couple of weeks because of the weather, and we just can't pour as much. We are continuing to backfill around structures. We are talking about filling up the area between all the structures right now, so that's a big step for us. We are continuing GMP number 9, which is mechanical, electrical. Like I say, we have a lot of different equipment, and a lot of the labor force right now is the mechanics and the plumbers putting stuff together, and the electricians. We have, as of today, we had 110 workers on site. We'll probably be that way, then start to see reductions in force probably around the end of January. We hit 300,000 man hours this week, so that's quite a bit, and we'll see another 200,000 in the next 6 months. We are continuing to self-perform wood frame construction. That's starting to come together, and there's going to be a lot of the ornate wood structure that's going to be going in here pretty soon on the second half of it. We are putting up the decorative bricks, so if you go in and look at our biosolids building, you're going to see the actual brick facades that we're building, and we're finishing up the roofs. We are implementing the $29 million SRF funding. We actually have got the amendment in process, and that should be hopefully done in the next month to 6 weeks. And as Dr. Merriman said earlier, we are looking at funding opportunities for Windjammer Park. We did talk earlier during comments about scheduling a special council work session, and there'll be more to come with that. One thing we will be bringing to you on the early January meeting is we actually have contractors that have worked on earlier phases of the project that are complete. So we'll be doing a specialized administrative process called retainage release. We don't typically do that in our projects, but we're going to start doing partial releases on retainage, so we'll have an action for you on that. Schedule-wise, looking good. We're heading for the first of the year. Brian Shirley is talking about Oak Harbor 39. It's our 39th schedule amendment, and we're still looking very good for this summer. We're charging ahead. One thing we are seeing in the schedules, we're starting to put in startup activities. They've had blocks in the schedule for that, and we're starting to fill those out with actual details. So That's going to be a very busy time for city staff. Again, if you want to find out more about our project, you can reach us at oakharborcleanwater.org. You can call our cell phone line at 914-7000 or our work extensions. Email us at treatmentplant@oakharbor.org. And we have another open house on Monday, January 8th. Questions?
Questions? Okay, nice report, Brett, thank you. Okay, that concludes section 5. We'll move to 6A, which is ordinance number 1816, adopting the 2017 comprehensive plan amendments. And this is a continuation of the public hearing, and I see Senior Planner Kak Kamak at the podium. Kak?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, member of the City Council. Here to present the 2017 Comprehensive Plan amendments. I went through this presentation on December 5th, so I won't go through it again. But I do want to mention that there have been some changes that have been made to the capital improvements plan, and I'll point out, I'll just go through the changes. After the hearing was opened at the City Council meeting on December 5th, we did actually get some public input from the Gary Oak Society. They provided some information, some additional information on the Gary Oak extent and its coverage and no cover. You know, the maps are general maps. We just kind of indicate them very generally on what the critical areas are. They had more information, and it still is in a general form, but it covers a larger extent of the Gary Oak trees in the downtown area and in the old town, so to speak. And they also, one of the things that we did not catch is the Gary Oak Grove that we're creating by Fakama Road. And so we added that to the map as well. So that map has been updated. There were some minor edits from City Council at the last meeting. We contacted the Oak Harbor Pool and the library. They gave us some information. They were minor changes. We added that in there as well, and there are some formatting changes, but substantially the document remains as is. So what we recommend is that the City Council open the public hearing, take public testimony, and then close the hearing and take action. We put some language up there for your ease to make the motion. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, let's at this time, let's reopen the public hearing then. Ask the audience if anyone here would like to speak. And it doesn't look like we've got a lot of people racing to the podium, so I think with that, we'll invite our senior planner back, close the public hearing, and ask council to for questions or input, suggestions. Anyone? Yes, Councilor Munt.
If there are no other further discussion, I'll be happy to make the motion.
Okay.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1816, adopting the 2017 comprehensive plan amendments, which consist of an updated capital improvement plan, addition of an economic development element policy, and updates to the environmental element to include critical area maps.
Second.
So we've got a motion as posted up there, and motion by Munn, second by Heisen. Any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, CAC. And our last item this evening is item number 7A, Resolution 17-23, City of Oak Harbor 2018 Washington State Legislative Priority Issues. Dr. Merriman, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's discussion on our legislative priorities, there are two pieces to this. And you should have provided at your workstations a copy of Resolution 17-23. In addition, you'll probably have a one-page sheet that shows our draft of the legislative priorities. Now, why I say this is in two different pieces. One, we have the city part of it as far as our business and the resolution itself. The second then is how do we take that information and market it and present it to our legislators? So step number one that I'd like to just discuss for a moment is resolution itself, 1723. And you'll see that on that resolution, we have 15 of the different items that we talked about. They are somewhat in priority order, but not necessarily. So this resolution really is to show those items of interest to City Council and the staff that we want to hold out there as being our priorities for the legislature this year. As we've talked in the past, there have been a lot of times we've gone down to Olympia, and sometimes this list would have 30 items on it, and we would deliver that list of 30 items to our legislators. And based on some feedback we got from them, it works better if we do come down with a list of maybe 5 to 6 items that they can really focus on, and we'll still give them the rest of them, but we'll put them in some categories and different things so they can basically have their ear to the rails, so to speak, for us, that if they hear those topics coming up during the legislative session, they know where we stand and they can give us some assistance on those items. So first, looking at the resolution, we'll be asking for action on this tonight for City Council to adopt Resolution 17-23. And then second is just a discussion time to talk about what your thoughts are on this worksheet, and if you feel there's anything we need to change, if it's good as it looks, or if there's any other input. Mr. Servadius is not here tonight. I did speak to him by phone today, and he did give us a couple of items as well. So if we get into those discussions, I have a promise to him a little bit. I'll give his input there so you also know a little bit what he was thinking. I think we're all probably pretty close on the same items, but we'll see how that goes. Whatever feedback we get tonight, we'll go ahead and incorporate that into this legislative priority document, and we'll have final copy for you to take down to city action days in January. So I can answer any questions you might have on that.
Okay, why don't we see if anybody from any in attendance here would like to speak to this first regarding the legislative priorities? Okay, seeing none. Questions, input, deletions? Yes, Councilor Heisen.
Thank you. I actually have a couple things. My first question is basically logistics. You mentioned action tonight on the resolution, and then we can fine-tune the document that we're actually taking to Olympia. Why do we need action tonight specifically? We're going to Olympia, what, third week of January? Mm-hmm. Is there something that happens before then?
No, I think
we're just trying to get this out of the way.
Sure. What we wanted to do is just get it on the calendar early. Mm-hmm. And tonight was a little bit still of is there any other changes or anything we need to do? So we wanted to leave enough time that if there was something that was significant, we have time to come back in January.
Okay.
And then we can take action if that's what we needed to do. Okay. So we just wanted to get a little bit early just to make sure we left ourselves enough time to get that thoroughly vetted before we go down to Olympia.
I appreciate that. Because we had the workshop discussion, but this, gives us a couple of tries at getting it correctly. I have some comments on the priority sheet that we're going to bring down, but I don't know if we want to do this in any particular order. In terms of the resolution, I think that if these are going to be in prioritized order, that should be made clear somewhere in the whereases, and if it's in no particular order, that should also be made clear. It would be my preference that they are in order based on priority, just because anybody looking at the list is going to make that assumption. And if that is the case, I would reorder these. How we would go about doing that, I don't know. But
maybe I need to restate how I said that. So if you look at the resolution itself, you'll see items 1 through 6 actually are the same 1 through 6 items on our sheet that we'd be taking to Olympia.
Right.
So we do have those in the priority order that we're able to pick up from our discussions before.
Okay.
From items 7 through 15, those are kind of in the general pool of different items.
Okay.
So they may not necessarily have a specific order to them.
Okay.
But the main ones that we were concerned about were items 1 through 6, and those are in priority order that we have, at least at this time.
Okay. I'll
if that helps.
Yes, I'll come back to that after we've heard from the others.
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Merriman, I know that we formally present them to our legislators, but if they're going to be hitting the ground running, they're going to try to do it in 60 days. If they were to get our final list before we even go, then they can help have their staff directed on, this is the 10th district legislature, and this is what this city needs to have. Otherwise, if you wait until then, they're already writing bills. I mean, they've already started to write bills for this coming session. So if they know, oh, okay, Oak Harbor, let's put them here. This is this bill. We're already working on this one. I think it helps them. It also kind of gives us a head start on our priorities. So if there's any way we could get them to them by January 1, I think they're sworn in the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, that I think it helps them out, and it also gets us higher. We're first on the heap instead of that day wherever we are and talking with them. So that's the only worry I have, is that they usually, when they've come to chamber to talk with us, if they could have it before the 1st, then they've got it in their hot little hands and they know which bills are coming up, which ones to maybe add, and where Oak Harbor fits in with some of their legislative pushes within the House and the Senate. Just a comment.
It's a good comment, and I think what our intent would be to, once this is passed and we've all signed off on it, it looks good, we would probably send it down to their staffers immediately. And that way, when we go down to Olympia and we're talking to them, it won't be their first chance at eyes on the paper for that. They would have known already what these are, and we could already be strategizing with them on how we want to approach a legislative session on some of these items.
And I also wanted to say thank you to you and to Nicole for sending me the draft so I could take it to AWC for the December meeting. So they know it's a draft, they have it, but it's compiled. And some of the other cities are going, really? You've already got a draft done. So anyway, kudos to our staff and to council for coming up with our ideas so far. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say, Nicole is the driver on that. She gets the credit for putting that together and developing this sheet. She does a really good job at that.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Heisen.
Okay. This is fantastic, by the way, Nicole. Thank you. It's gorgeous. And I love the kind of categorization of the other things on the back. That's really well done. So in terms of priorities, top 5, I went back and watched our workshop meeting and made a list of all of the issues that all of us mentioned when we were going through our list. And my preference on this would be to take from funding either clean water facility or Capron funding and make it number 3 and then move Main Street funding to the back. To me, I'm all about infrastructure, and safety, and all the economic development in the world is not going to do us any good if we don't have the infrastructure to support it. So in terms of my absolute, these are the things that need to happen, I'm going to prioritize our clean water facility and our roads and transportation. So I don't know how the council feels about whether Capron funding, since that is unique to us, or the clean water facility should maybe take that spot, but I would like to see Main Street move to the back. That's not something that I heard anyone identify at the workshop other than the mayor, as a top 5. Capron was mentioned quite a bit, and the wastewater treatment plant was mentioned, I think, by every single one of us, actually, when I was making my notes. So I'm just throwing that out there for you guys.
Yes. Councilor Westwood?
Yes. Actually, I had the exact same thoughts as I was looking at the list, and I love everything on the list. I think it all is very relevant and well thought out. Same with the sheet. I agree. I think while Main Street is very important and it's a great asset to our city, I think for our council and us going there to advocate for things as a legislative body that we are, I would agree that the Capron funds, infrastructure, and the clean water facility would maybe take a higher priority and be on the front sheet, one or the other. And maybe there's a way to, the same with the Windjammer Park funding, maybe there's a way to add in that Windjammer Park funding, the clean water facility funding somehow. I don't have all the answers, but I think that infrastructure, I agree, needs to take a priority for us. I agree with Councilmember Heisen that if we don't have an infrastructure base in our city, we can't build up on a park or have a Main Street, organization. So I think those are super important, and we need to continue advocating for those infrastructures. That's my opinion. That's the only thing that caught my eye as well on the priorities. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Allenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd support both of the comments made by the preceding council members. Main Street is important. Affordable housing is important. We can't have affordable housing if we don't have some kind of a rein-in on the low-impact development. We have two competing items. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't make any sense to have low-impact development that increases the cost of a residence, single-family residence, between $20,000 and $35,000, and then we're saying, well, we want affordable housing too. So affordable housing go to the bottom of my list as long as we get low-impact development. Main Street is important also, but I'm very supportive about hanging on to those Capron funds. We have not just a mini crisis, but a fairly major event if we lose the Capron funds. And I think we have to keep our legislative representatives on top of that one. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor, go ahead.
As I mentioned previously, and this might answer a couple of questions we've just been discussing, Mr. Servadius weighed in. He has items such as LID, the marina, affordable housing, and Windjammer were the four that he listed. He also was interested in if there's something we can do about liquor and marijuana taxes, if there are some increases or a higher cost sharing. Those are a couple things. One item he mentioned, which is a good one, and I think it dovetails a little bit to what we just talked about, is the additional Main Street funding. When we got our information this year on how to do that, when we call in and when we tried to get that, we learned that the state increased Main Street funding from $1.3 million to $2.5 million. So they actually did it. It's not something that we're going to have to push for the legislative session this year. They also did some changes on how organizations can get that money, what the caps are as far as how much can be pledged and all that. So hopefully it's actually going to be a little bit more of a streamlined process. But because they did increase that funding, that would make some sense to push this back. And maybe take it off that top 6 list. Then possibly what I could do is, in the terms of infrastructure, there isn't something specific to the treatment plant and some of these, but we can craft that wording where it is, if there's anything regarding enhanced infrastructure, whether it's funding or anything else, we can find the right wording for it. We group it in there and we can list like for sewage or transportation and those things, but put it under the umbrella of infrastructure financing. And that way we can pull in things like Public Works Trust Fund loans. That can mean a lot of different things. So it gives us a nice broad umbrella to put those things underneath. That might be a good way to do that, just as a suggestion.
Yep.
Anyone else? Councilor Muntz?
I like the sound of that, and I think realistically, we have to be fluid, or whatever opportunity comes up we need to grab onto, because there's going to be so few with such a shortened thing to get whatever we can. I definitely want to see the small cells, because it isn't just being able to dictate, but that's part of the city's power or say on how we want our city to look, and we don't want to lose that legislation. So it's more than just how we want the small cells. It's the fact that the cities have the right to decide what they want in their community. And they already know Comcast and all of them have reorganized, and they're going to have a big push again to come in and say, we know what's best for all the cities, and we're going to plan it, so get used to it, and this is what you can charge, because we decide that. So I still think we need to have that on our front sheet. But I think how you've grouped the things for the infrastructure and stuff is a good idea on that. And I think Main Street will be easier just because they increased the funding so much. And we've already put in we're kind of on their table, so I think that helps. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Heisen.
Does staff, do you need any action from us on this, or can you and Nicole take
We'll run
the
with
notes that you have?
my apologies.
No.
Yeah, we'll go
Okay.
ahead and run with putting that together. We'll shoot a copy out to you guys
Okay.
to see, but we don't need any action on that. The only piece we would really need action on is the resolution.
Okay. So if we have indicated that we want to reorder the top 5 or the top 6, then wouldn't that alter the resolution?
So what I would hear, just to participate in this a little bit, is possibly on this resolution list, we can push Main Street program funding down. We would substitute into item number 3, infrastructure funding or financing. And so your motion could be approve resolution 17-23 with those changes. No, I'm getting the no from Nikki.
Yes, I don't think that's specific enough.
So you would probably want to do a motion first to amend the resolution to make the changes that you are looking for, and then following that, you could make a motion to pass the amended resolution.
That's perfect. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Nikki.
Councilor Wasser.
I have a question. So, if we were to approve the resolution as it's written now without any amendments, back to kind of what Councilmember Heisen mentioned, it doesn't specifically say anywhere in the main body of the resolution about the order being by priority. So does it matter that we amend the resolution because the way I'm reading the resolution is that it's in order. I mean, there's just 15 items, that they're in no particular order. So we can, on this sheet, do what we want after we approve this, and this is in no order. So I guess the short question is, does it really matter what order the 15 items are, just that they're there?
That would be up to council and how you would like to see that list appear.
But I mean, legally, I guess, the way the resolution is written, we're not tied into having the top 6 items listed here be the top 6 that we put on the front of our priority list, or that we present to.
No.
Okay.
I might add one thing, actually. When you look at this, there are 16 items. And the thing that didn't get put on there is the Boys and Girls Club facility funding. That's on the second page of this.
Wow.
So I started counting the items. I noticed there are actually a total of 16.
Okay.
So I assume we would want to add that as the 16th item, which is Boys and Girls Club facility funding.
Okay.
And then if you want to vote on it that way, or if you want to renumber it, that's entirely up to council. I certainly hear and agree with the Main Street discussion. The only thing I will say is the last couple of times I've been to Olympia and discussing the clean water facility, all 3 of our people down there are, I'm not going to say they get confused, but I can tell you that Representative Smith is very quick to say, now, don't you have some funding sources? In other words, last time we had a conversation, just her and I, she got concerned thinking we weren't funded yet. And the facility has been funded. And I don't want our citizens out there to believe that we don't have our funding for our clean water facility, because we do. We have the loans set. we can always get those loans under better terms, but we definitely have the funding.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We do have the funding. The piece that we would be looking for into the future is what are ways that we can even do new things with that funding to even bring the price down more.
Totally agree.
And that's
Yeah.
what we would look for their assistance on.
Okay, yeah. But I get Capron and clean water too. Maybe we reword that a little differently, but still. So back to the question here, what do we vote on tonight or not?
Okay. So I think Nikki has me on the correct course here. So the first step would be to amend, a motion to amend Resolution 17-23. That would possibly include a line for the Boys and Girls Club facility funding, and if you wanted to add something for infrastructure. Those would be the two pieces to that amendment. Once you make that decision, if that's what you want to do, then you would make a second motion that would approve Resolution 1723 as amended. So first step is make the amendments. Second is to approve the amended
So I've
resolution.
got a couple of hands up, it looks like. I'll start with Councilor Olmberg.
Yes, I'd like to make the motion then to amend Resolution 1723. I understood we're going to amend it, but then we're going to talk about the priority list as amended.
Yes, sir. How would you like to amend it? What would you like to do to the resolution?
Well, I wasn't going to change the order without the discussion from the council.
So in
Maybe I
order-
misunderstood Dr. Merriman. I thought
Yeah.
we had to have the first action was an action to agree to amend it. After we have agreed to amend it, then we go forward and we prioritize these rankings? No?
No, so the first motion is going to be a motion to amend it to change the resolution in whatever way you want to change it. For example, like Dr. Merriman said, adding in the Boys and Girls Club funding, or maybe adding in a line regarding infrastructure funding. And then once that motion passes and you've got the resolution the way you want it, you've amended it the way you want it, then you have a second motion to pass the resolution as amended.
I have to have some further thought on the different parts. Let somebody else go forward with it.
Okay, so that motion dies for a second. Councilor Heisen.
Thank you. In terms of adding something about infrastructure, since this is a resolution, if we were going to amend and then that language would have to be exact. We can't say add a line about infrastructure and then approve a resolution, right?
Okay.
Okay. Make sure I had that correct. And I had the same thought with the Boys and Girls Club facility funding, but that's already on the back, so that language could come directly from our one sheet here. So that would be easy enough. What I would do if it were me making a motion, and I know several people have comments, so I won't, but hypothetically, if I were to make a motion, it would be to swap items 3 and 9, put Capron at 3 and move Main Street down to 9, and then add Boys and Girls Club facility funding just tack that onto the end as number 16. That's what I'm thinking at this point. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, Councilor
I
Campbell.
thought we decided that we don't have to put things on the resolution by order. I mean, the things that you want are already there, with the exception of the Boys and Girls Club.
We don't have to. It's just my preference. That's all.
Okay, we have had that discussion, but you could change the numbers, I guess, if you choose. Councilor Wessinger?
Yes, I agree, just to make it easier, that I wouldn't, if we don't need to, I would not, again, change any of the numbering or what, I mean, they're all there. I would, if I were to make a motion if there's no other discussion, I too would support just making one single motion to amend the resolution and add number 16 being to Exhibit A, being the Boys and Girls Club facility funding, and then just the exact same wording as it is here. That would be the easiest to me way to amend this. Everything's there. The infrastructure funding, all the little pieces are already listed. Capron's there, Clean Water Facilities there, Public Works Trust Fund, they're already listed. To me, that's a grouping that we can do without this on our separate sheet, separate from the resolution. So that would be my suggestion, just to make it more simple.
Councilor Olmberg.
Thank you. Well, the wording on our resolution refers to an Exhibit A, which is a numbered item, so that hypothetical would have to include deleting the numbering system if you're going to perfect Exhibit A.
What-
Councilor Wasserman.
I will make the motion then. I moved to amend resolution number 17-23 to add item number 16 to Exhibit A, saying Boys and Girls Club facility funding, advocate and assist the Oak Harbor Boys and Girls Club to seek funding assistance for a replacement community-based building.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to amend resolution number 23 to add item number 16, Boys and Girls Club facility funding, advocate and assist the Oak Harbor Boys and Girls Club to seek funding assistance for a replacement community-based building. So that is a motion and a second. Any discussion, further discussion about that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Now, yes, Councilor Heisen.
I would move to approve resolution number 17-23 as amended.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve resolution number 1723 as amended. Motion by Heisen, second by Campbell. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Any other business for tonight or discussion? I would entertain a motion to adjourn, if not.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Motion by Campbell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Paggao to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, too. Well, gentlemen, thank you again.
Guys.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.